Air India Flight AI171, a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, crashed shortly after takeoff from Ahmedabad on June 12, 2025. The London-bound flight departed Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport at about 1:38 p.m. local time with 242 people on board, 230 passengers and 12 crew. Moments after liftoff, the aircraft failed to gain altitude and plummeted into a nearby residential area, Meghani Nagar, just outside the airport perimeter. Video and eyewitness accounts show the Dreamliner barely climbed for about 30 seconds before veering off course and descending into a two-story doctor's hostel near the runway. Flames erupted on impact and thick black smoke billowed from the wreckage. Rescue teams arrived at the scene amid burning wreckage. Miraculously, one survivor, a male passenger seated in emergency exit row 11A, was pulled from the debris. He was rushed to a nearby hospital with serious injuries. Tragically, 241 of the 242 people on board were killed, according to Air India and police reports. The death toll includes 241 on board, 170 Indians, 53 British, 7 Portuguese, 1 Canadian. In addition to those on the plane, at least 5 people inside the hostel on the ground were killed instantly. In total, authorities confirmed at least 246 fatalities, 241 on the aircraft and 5 on the ground. These figures were initially reported as 30 dead, but were quickly revised upward by local officials and investigators. Among the victims was Vijay Rupani, the 68-year-old former Chief Minister of Gujarat. Rupani was en route to London to join his family and died in the crash, an event that prompted widespread condolences. Flight manifests show dozens of British citizens among the passengers, 53 Britons, as well as people from Portugal and Canada. The sole survivor, a man of British Indian origin, later described how he managed to escape the wreckage. Air India and government officials have responded to the disaster. In a video statement, Air India CEO Campbell Wilson said the crash was a very difficult day for everyone at Air India and pledged that the airline's teams were working around the clock to support survivors and investigators. He urged patience, noting that investigations will take time, but anything we can do now we are doing. The Tata Group, Air India's owner, announced generous aid. Tata Sons chairman N. Chandrasekaran said families of victims will each receive 1 Indian rupee crore, about $120,000 in compensation, and that all medical expenses of the injured would be covered. He also promised support to rebuild the damaged BJ Medical College hostel and a government-appointed helpline 1-800-569-1444 to assist families. Indian government officials, including the Prime Minister and several cabinet ministers, conveyed their condolences and directed all possible assistance be provided, while police and emergency services secured the crash site and recovered victims' remains. Internationally, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, confirmed it is in contact with India's authorities about Flight AI171 and is ready to send an investigation team via the NTSB, if requested. Flight AI171 was operated by Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner VTANB, delivered in 2014, about 11 years old. The Dreamliner is a wide-body, twin-engine jet introduced in 2011 and noted for its composite construction and fuel efficiency. AI171 had 2 pilots and 10 cabin crew on duty. According to flight tracking data, the aircraft signal was lost at only about 625 feet altitude, with a rapid descent of roughly 475 feet per minute before impact. Air India and officials report that the pilots issued a mayday call to Ahmedabad air traffic control immediately after takeoff, indicating an in-flight emergency just before the crash. The plane was bound for London's Gatwick Airport and was scheduled to arrive there around 6:25 p.m. local time. The exact moment of disaster, only 30 seconds after rotation, has been captured on airport CCTV footage. Videos show the 787 lifting off normally and climbing briefly, then suddenly losing lift and dropping into a residential area. Passengers in the cabin appear to have had no time to react. Many died on impact or in the ensuing fire. Notably, This crash is unprecedented for the 787 Dreamliner. Boeing has delivered nearly 1,200 Dreamliners worldwide since 2011, carrying over 1 billion passengers without a single fatal crash until now. Industry sources note that Flight AI171 is believed to be the first fatal hull loss of any Boeing 787. Indeed, aviation databases confirm no earlier 787 accidents involving loss of life. The fact that this is the first fatal 787 accident and the first wide-body jet accident for an Indian carrier in 40 years has intensified scrutiny of what might have gone wrong. Rescue efforts began within minutes of the crash. Fire crews tackled blazes amid smoking wreckage. First responders found one occupant alive. The rest were either killed instantly or fatally injured. Ahmedabad Police Commissioner G.S. Malik cautioned that many bodies remained in the debris and that the death toll could rise. By the evening, police confirmed at least 246 dead, 241 on the plane and 5 on the ground, and dozens injured. The 5 ground fatalities occurred in the BJ Medical College hostel struck by the plane. Many injured people on the ground and 1 survivor were treated in nearby hospitals. Among the dead were passengers of several nationalities. Air India confirmed the onboard dead included 169 Indians, 53 British, 7 Portuguese, and 1 Canadian. The sole survivor, a British Indian man, was seated at 11A, next to an emergency exit. Media reports later identified the VIP passenger. Vijay Rupani, former Chief Minister of Gujarat, was confirmed killed in the crash. Rupani had been traveling to London to join his family. His death drew prominent political reactions. Bodies of the victims were carried to the civil hospital in Ahmedabad. Identification of the deceased is ongoing. Indian authorities have announced that DNA and forensic teams are assisting with identification, and next of kin are being notified. Relatives and community members gathered in Ahmedabad and elsewhere, mourning the loss. The Gujarati community in London, where some passengers were headed, also held impromptu vigils. India's Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, has opened an official investigation into the crash. Under international aviation protocols, India, as the state of occurrence, is leading the probe, with technical support offered by the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, and the FAA. Investigators will analyze the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder, black boxes, recovered from the wreckage to determine the sequence of events. These recordings will reveal crucial details. Whether the crew completed the pre-flight takeoff checklist, including deploying the flaps and slats, and whether any cockpit alarms were triggered. Officials confirmed that both flight recorders have been recovered and sent to a specialized laboratory for expedited decoding. Early reports suggest the cockpit audio captured an urgent discussion about a loss of thrust seconds after takeoff. The DGCA has ordered urgent inspections of all Boeing 787s operating in India, focusing on takeoff configuration systems, fuel monitoring units, and engine thrust calibration. GE Aerospace, the engine manufacturer, has deployed a team of technical advisors to coordinate with Indian officials on engine performance data review. So far, authorities have given few official clues to the cause. DGCA confirmed the flight made a distress call after takeoff, but beyond that, no cause has been determined. The weather at the time was reported to be clear and calm, ruling out immediate concerns about storms or high winds. Eyewitnesses heard a loud bang before the crash, leading some to speculate about a possible bird strike, collision with birds, on takeoff. However, experts caution that eyewitness accounts can be unreliable, and so far there is no confirmation of a bird collision. Aviation analysts are examining other possibilities. Some experts have noted that grainy video suggests the plane's wings may not have been producing lift as expected. For example, aviation journalist Jerry Byrne observed that raising the nose of a heavily loaded aircraft too sharply can disrupt airflow over the wings, effectively stalling the plane. Preliminary theory: if the Boeing's flaps or slats were not extended properly for takeoff, the pilots might have pulled up to compensate, but inadvertently caused a loss of lift. This scenario is similar to the 2008 Spanair MD-83 crash or the 2009 Air France A330 crash. where incorrect configuration and premature nose-up inputs led to stalls. Officials will certainly examine if any warning alerts sounded in the cockpit about flaps or system failures. The flight data recorder will ultimately show the positions of all control surfaces and engines at takeoff. No definitive cause can be stated until the investigation concludes. Both Boeing and Air India have promised full cooperation. Boeing has sent engineers to assist investigators. In a statement, Air India's CEO Wilson emphasized that the airline has no intent to speculate and will await accurate findings. The FAA and NTSB have also offered technical assistance given Boeing is a U.S. manufacturer. Meanwhile, public questions abound. Was the aircraft properly maintained? Were the pilots experienced on this route and type? Why did the plane fail to climb normally? Authorities are expected to provide updates in the coming weeks. Air India and Boeing 787 background. Air India is India's flag carrier with a long, complex history. Founded in 1932 by J.R.D. Tata as Tata Airlines, it became a nationalized entity in 1953 under the Indian government. For decades, the carrier struggled with inefficiency and debt under government ownership. In 2022, the Tata Group, which also owns carriers Vistara and Air India Express, fully acquired Air India in a $2.2 billion deal. Since the takeover, Tata has merged its airlines, Air India Express, Vistara, AIX Connect, into a single Air India group, now India's largest airline operator. The revamped Air India boasts a modern fleet. As of mid-2025, it flew 191 aircraft to 43 domestic and 41 international destinations. It has positioned itself as India's long-haul specialist, being the only Indian carrier with non-stop service to Europe, North America, and Australia. In recent years, Air India placed record-breaking aircraft orders, 470 widebodies in early 2023 plus additional jets, to expand its global reach. Among the new equipment in Air India's fleet are over 24 Boeing 787 Dreamliners. Air India began operating 787-8s in 2012 and relied on them heavily for London, New York, and other far. The airline also flies several dozen Airbus A350s and Boeing 777s for international routes. Prior to this crash, Dreamliners had an excellent safety record. Almost 1,200 had been delivered worldwide since 2011, with no fatal hull loss recorded. In fact, journalists note that Flight AI171's crash appears to be the first fatal 787 accident globally. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner was lauded as a technological leap. A composite airframe, fly-by-wire controls, and advanced onboard health monitoring systems. It was designed for fuel efficiency and long range. That said, the 787 has had high-profile technical issues early in its service. In 2013, for example, a series of lithium-ion battery failures, including one that caused a fire on a Japan Airlines 787 in Boston, prompted the U.S. FAA and other regulators to ground all 787s worldwide for 3 months while fixes were implemented. Those battery problems were eventually resolved, and Boeing made design changes. Other 787 incidents, engine troubles, etc., have occurred, but none resulted in loss of life until this Ahmedabad crash. Boeing's recent history has been challenging. The 737 MAX crises are well known, but the 787 program had not suffered a fatal accident prior to June 2025. Air India itself has experienced tragedies in its past. Its deadliest accident was the June 1985 bombing of Flight 182, a Boeing 747, the Kanishk flight from Canada to India. A bomb exploded over the Atlantic, killing all 329 people aboard. By far the worst aviation terror attack on Canadian soil. Air India has since implemented strict security and safety protocols, but the legacy of that disaster still looms. In more recent years, smaller accidents involving subsidiary Air India Express, e.g. runway overshoots, have underscored operational risks. The current crash involving a flagship widebody jet is the most severe aviation accident in India in decades. Investigators and the public alike are recalling those past incidents as they seek lessons and understanding from the AI171 tragedy. Emerging questions and concerns. The abrupt nature of the crash raises many questions that need answers. Some of the key issues under scrutiny include aircraft configuration on takeoff. Experts note that a fully loaded wide-body jet like a 787 needs its flaps and slats extended properly for liftoff. If those were not set correctly, a high nose-up input, as the crew tried to climb, could have stalled the wings. Investigators will verify flap positions via the flight data recorder and listen on the cockpit audio to see if the takeoff checklist was followed. Engine performance. Witnesses reported hearing a loud bang just before impact, suggesting a possible engine problem or bird strike. Investigators will examine engine data to see if either of the 787's engines, General Electric GEnx or Rolls-Royce Trent 1000, failed or suffered damage in flight. Inspection of the wreckage for bird remains or engine debris will be part of the probe. Pilot training and experience. Authorities will review the crew's qualifications and recent simulator checks. Both pilots were experienced Dreamliner captains, but investigators will assess whether any human error may have contributed. Flight recorder transcripts will show what controls the pilots applied in the final seconds. Maintenance records. Air India's maintenance logs for VTANB will be audited. The aircraft had been in service for 11 years. Any deferred maintenance items or recent repairs will be examined. Boeing and airline maintenance personnel may be asked to help interpret technical findings. Airport and environmental factors. While weather was reportedly fine, investigators will rule out any runway or airport issues. They will confirm that the aircraft's instruments and navigation aids were functioning normally. As the inquiry proceeds, Indian aviation authorities have invoked a media blackout on unofficial theories to prevent misinformation. Officials have promised that any determination of cause or contributing factors will be made public in due course. The crash of Air India Flight AI171 on June 12, 2025 was a catastrophic event that has shocked India and the world. It took the lives of nearly all aboard, including passengers of multiple nationalities, and claimed additional victims on the ground. It has prompted a massive rescue and investigative effort. Air India's management, the Indian government, and Boeing have all pledged full support to uncover the truth behind this tragedy. Until the investigation is complete, many questions remain open. Why did the Dreamliner fail to climb? Was it a technical malfunction? A procedural error? Or some combination? In the coming weeks and months, authorities will analyze flight data, review procedures, and likely provide answers. In the meantime, families of the victims are mourning, and the aviation community is reflecting on safety lessons. Sources. Contemporary news reports and official releases have been used throughout this analysis. These include Reuters, CBS News, Indian Express, Times of India, The Guardian, and official US FAA statements, which provided detailed information on the crash, airline history, aircraft data, and ongoing investigations. Thanks for watching the video. Hit the like button and subscribe if you want to watch detailed videos like this one.